So, yes, I will speak in English and I will use today the PowerPoint. And the topic here we see in our list. So I will read today the text from the Bible, from the Luke. It's both in Swedish there if you can read, and then but I will read it in English. The angel answered, "The Holy Spirit will come on you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God. Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age, and she who was said to be unable to conceive is in her 6 months. For no word from God will ever fail. I am the Lord's servant." Mary answered, "May your word be fulfilled." Then the angel left her. So yeah, we can imagine what a shock it must have been for Maria, Jesus' mother, to meet an angel and to give her that message, how she should have a child. And I guess for any parents, so I've been blessed with 4 children. So every parent knows that it's a very big moment when you're going to have a child. And it's like life-terminal. It's like you're changing. You suddenly go from a state of mind being one type of person to another person. You go into a new step of your sense of existence and sense of awareness. But of course, on top of that, is that the angel appeared from nowhere and giving her this message. So of course, it's even more dramatic. And it seems like unimaginable, right? How this can happen. And for most of us, when we look at this story now, we celebrate this day. Why this is day in Christianity, we talk about it, because it's actually 9 months, supposedly, until Jesus is born. So it's this time of preparation. So God's providence is God's work things life. It's like expectation and there are preparation. And those things, miracle can seem to happen. And this is, when I wrote this, I was thinking about the story, I suddenly this song, Imagine, came into my mind from John Lennon. His biggest song, one of the most iconic songs. And he dreams about a world of peace. He says, "You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us and the world will live as one." And I think that this captured a moment why I had such a life-turning event in my own life. Dreaming, the world can really become one. We can really live in happiness. It's like old barriers can be broken down. Of course, in his lyrics text, he also talks about no religion, no borders. So it can seem very kind of wild, and many people maybe have some resistance towards it. When I looked at this Google text for this, searched it up, there were many questions also. Was John Lennon a communist? Or he seemed very revolutionary. But the song is very powerful, and it was supposedly like reflected on his inspiration from his wife Yoko Ono, Japanese. So she was into conceptual art and broad-minded. I think John Lennon himself didn't really know what he was doing. It was just inspirational words. I read also a story once that some guy came and visited his home and said, "You're the big prophet." John Lennon was just basically annoyed and irritated. It's just words, he said. So a little disappointed for an old Beatles fan myself that he didn't have the more profound prophetic understanding what he was doing. But also maybe a sign of life that, things happen a lot more than we do understand. We can look at it that way. And it's always good to be channeled for something good and inspirational. And it's something reflecting deep about ourselves. Because what it's all about, this story, is actually trying to understand our sense of reality. For us, reality is, of course, very much oriented to the physical reality. But the principle explains to us that, parallel, there's a spiritual reality. And it is very clear. It's actually incomprehensible to understand life without it. Yes, it's important to understand, of course, the Bible without it. Because, of course, this angels coming to you represents something non-physical. But it's a spiritual thing, something spiritual. And of course, when we're very bound by our physical reality, we're missing out a very big portion of our own reality. We just reduce it to some kind of fable or something like that, which is not fully relevant, or just a myth or a story. Yeah, there could be myths and stories, but actually they're explaining something more fundamental about human existence. And then, of course, that when we talk about peace and happiness, we are looking for something, we think God can do this miracle, wonderful things. But then we have this obstacle in life, right? And Father always is talk about this, and that is because we are sinners. In religion, we talk about sinners, but it's very depressing to talk about sin, actually, to recognize that, well, I'm a sinner. It's not so nice to hear that. We want to have a positive message. And why can't God fix it all then? He's the almighty and all good, This is the classical issues in theology people have wrestled with. But we can look at it a different way, though. We can look at sin is actually, it's like when you have a health problem. Many people say, the health problem is nice. I go to the doctor, then the doctor told me what it is. At least I know what the problem is. Then, when I know the problem, we can maybe start addressing the problem. Because if we don't know the problem, we just feel it's a problem, how should we even look and just try to solve the issue? So looking at sin is actually an opportunity for us to address certain issues. So it is a deep meaning like that, it here says also that the word also has hamartia. It's the world people talk falling the mark. It's sin something more than just you doing something bad. It's more than something just broke the law or you're just stupid or something. It's more something like you're missing understanding something fundamental about life and about yourself. And of course, divine principle explains this very clearly in different levels. Like we have the original sin from the fall of man, from Adam and Eve, and how did that happen? What did that mean? But then also we have this heritage of our own history, our own sins and history. And of course, we're always kind of proud of our, usually like to be proud of our ancestors, good things they did. And I'm sure all of them did a lot of good things. But also, they probably did some bad things also. And as the way I'm a fruit of the good things, I'm also a fruit of the bad things, right? In the same way, we talk about a collective sin. It's like a society. We like to, for instance, we are blessed growing up in the Western world. We have the privileges that other parts of the world don't have, and then other parts of history didn't have. We are really fortunate in many ways. Many things are much more easier and better and more comfortable. And we think, we are smart. It is this concept that we are smarter, we're a little bit better than the rest of the world, and we are more enlightened than we are. But actually, with that comes also a sense of responsibility also. We share the society's fruits and opportunities, but also we should also then feel also a sense of responsibility for its problems. We can't just ignore it. It's part of us. But then, of course, my own personal sin. When did I miss my mark? When did I do the wrong priorities in life? It takes a sense of reflection, right? And it's just ignore it and say, that's the past. Some people say, I did that really wrong thing, but this is the past. I forget about it now. Yes, in one sense, maybe it's good, just forget about it, but actually still somehow it's part of you also. You need to reflect because it affects you in some ways. And that's why I'm going to introduce you. I talked about this before, but I like to use this thing that I call the existential model. This pyramid, which somehow shapes our sense of the relationship with different things. Sorry. And there is this sense of reality. We talk about reality, physical reality. We always talk about, and I got this idea, inspiration, from there was a research done about language when we communicate. So I'm talking to you now using the words, and then you understand something about my words or a person's words. But you also know that but we also communicate through how we say things, right? And the voice, you feel something when people say something. Is it sincere or is it not sincere? And that affects us a lot more. And then the studies show that actually body language can be even more important. And I thought this really reflects somehow the relation between the physical, the mental, and the subconscious. our spiritual sense reality. And the proportion that studies, they showed also, the studies showed that actually the portions are not equal. There are actually about 10, 30, 60%. Most is body language. And that can go for explain that actually I would say this mirrors, reflects, of course, are the proportions between our physical senses, how we absorb things in life, our mental things, and our spiritual reality. And we can transfer that to I don't know if I flipped. Did I flip that slide there? Yeah, I did flip. Okay, that's fine. So basically the same model. It has different applications then, you know. You see the physical reality, and we have a mental reality, and then we have this spiritual reality affects us. And I think this is very important to understand conflicts. Why do we have conflicts? Why do we, how do we solve conflicts? How do we look at things? How we look at bad things? Why do they happen? Why don't God do more, for instance, to solve the problems? Yeah, it's because we know ourselves that we are in a sort of midway position. We have the position to unite both the physical and the spiritual. We have those capacities. We cannot put that on the animals, or not even on the angels. We, living here at this time on earth, have this unique opportunity to be the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. Because here in the physical world, we're learning to develop the mind over body issue, right? So True Father always talks about the mind. We have to bind and body unity. And we know that also that, for instance, addiction, what is the problem with that? It's the physical body controlling the mind, right? But if we are productive, feel good, a spiritual life, what spiritual life is about is to make the spirit control the body. And I think it's interesting that even when we talk about very physical activities like sports, you think about they have to be strong, they have to be focused, they are very much physical. You know, so some of us likes to watch football games and see the sports. Then they always talks about actually, of course, it has to have physical abilities. Of course, the physical, but it always talks about the mental. It's always the mentality, the attitude, but it also comes in like values that you feel good team unity and everything's great. So that is actually very much strongly input in it. And of course, it is so in our society, in this world. So we look at conflicts, everything else. So we can transfer that into actions, thoughts, and emotions. Like it has this holistic view. And the problem in this world today, besides the problem is, of course, since the fall, we came out of the Garden of Eden. It's like we lost connection with God. And religion is actually to bring us back to God. But even if we do have religion, it hasn't helped us to fully understand the meaning out of it. We look at the stories like Jesus as a fantastic, or the angels, they're fantastic beings, and they maybe can come down and fix it for us again, once again. We can put hope in that. Or the second coming will come take us away, far away from this bad world. We will escape from this world and find something else completely different. But we forget something very fundamental. Wherever we go, we bring with us our own thoughts and our own emotion, our own subconscious. So we can never really enter any good place unless we change ourselves, right? That's why religious life is very much about changing ourselves, transforming ourselves, transforming myself. I should become a different person. And that's why actually, when we have conflicts, is this an opportunity for us? Yes, we get upset. Someone does something bad to me. I get upset. I need to react bad. And maybe I don't want to have anything to do with that person anymore. I condemn that person. I persecute that person. Get out of my life. But I can look at it in a different way also. I can look and think, you know, what did I do to cause that person to react that way? You know, maybe I can self-reflect a little bit. Yes, it's not easy to do it. We don't really do it, but maybe later on you can think about it. You know, why did I cause that person? Why did the person say like that? What are they thinking about? But that person also has its history of things. And of course, from psychology, they explore these things very much. They can even tell that what happened in your childhood can affect you a lot later in life. So that says something about our spiritual mind. It's affected how it's influencing us. But we tend to ignore it too often. But it's a very useful tool, right? So when we confront different situations, we can feel it's unfair or whatever it is, maybe we caused the problem. Yes, maybe I caused some problem before. Maybe my ancestors caused some problem. Maybe I represent the society and different problems we have. I had to feel a sense of responsibility. That's how I can become also owner of the situation. Because I had to realize also, in the same way, it's not only between my body, what I'm doing physically, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. It's also about me connection with the society. I'm representing wherever I go. I'm representing, my community, whatever I am. And of course, as people of beliefs, of faith, as blessed families, this is why Tremado also talked about this blessing, Sean and good couples, why that is so important. Because we need to strengthen our sense of identity, that we are different with a unique calling, a unique sense of responsibility. It's not only for myself, but it's for my ancestors, it's for my community, but ultimately, of course, for God's providence. If I fail that, then I put the burden on somebody else. But at the same time, then I get the burden. So sometimes also I like to, maybe you think like I thought, I used to, why do religious people have to struggle and suffer? Why things are not easier? Well, because maybe it is an opportunity for me to grow. If everything was too easy, I would become too complacent. And I can see that happen actually with people, even good people of faith. Maybe their lives goes very well, and then they feel, we don't need God anymore. Actually, we can reflect about it, our society in Sweden. We think about we're having a long history in Sweden of devoted religious people. They didn't always live the best way of life, maybe, but their ideas influence Sweden, and we prospered as a nation. And then when we prosper and we try to solve all our problems, and we say we don't have any more problems, we can our society, we don't need God anymore, right? We can do without it. But then the problems catch up on us. And I think also in a broader sense, of course, the Western world today is in a situation. We thought we are the smartest, we are the best. We achieve great things in life. We can control, and science can solve all the problems. We don't really need God, actually, I think there's a collective understanding in the Western world today. We don't really need God. We're not even waiting for the second coming to come back and solve it. We don't even see our sins. But actually, it catches up on us. We are confronted with it. We are divided. And people blame others on it. But actually, it's an opportunity to reflect back on ourselves. So these things happen, wars and struggles, I think. They are not just individual problems, they are collective problems. And someone has to show the way moving forward. And that's why things are not just on a very, things are on a personal level, but we're also on social and also on a historical level. We carry our history with us. So also there is if we look at society today, we need this theory, I think, this model. I like to use, people use models for to understand different things. In science, the different models explain certain things. And then they give us some sort of picture of how we should orientate ourselves in life. But so if you think about this extension model, is usually when people just focus on the physical, they just see then one part of the whole life, right? Just 10%. And the problem is also people try to conceptualize and say, okay, how do we develop, where's our thinking come from? It comes from our brain, our physical senses. So they're reducing our understanding to this small part. So even like sort of advanced models, I'm thinking about this systematic models. We're talking about democracy, we're talking about global, the Western world idea of like modern peace systems. We talk about how to democratic world, how we can peace world. There is obviously a limited understanding because we cannot really unite unless we are rooted in something deeper and something broader. Because peace comes on sense of identity, common purpose. We talked about in principle, we talked about universal values. What are these values? They have to be rooted in something common. When we have universal values, then we apply these values, and then when we apply these values, mutual responsibility, each one we're giving in this responsibility, each one, then we can have the prosperity, mutual prosperity. Everybody can prosper. But in a world where everyone is focused on themselves materially, then of course we have a competition and we have rivalry, and everyone just strives basic for themselves. They pretend maybe that is for everybody else, but basically it's all for themselves. And I think this is also a reflection, I think, what happens now in the world today. It's like the whole world, we think that we are doing for the whole world. But if we do really for the whole world, we have to think not only horizontally, we have to think also sort of vertically. And what I mean with that, then we have to understand that politics, in the same way maybe as John Lennon sang actually in his song, Imagine, there's no borders, there's no religion. So you can interpret that as we don't need God, his message. But I interpret that we don't need these structures of rivalry too often blocks us from each other. Or we have different types of churches, different types of concepts, and ultimately, if we are centered on them, we are always going to be divided. But we have to understand these concepts as something rooted in something deeply universal. And that's what we talk about heart, a culture of heart. Parents talks about this. There's a artistic understanding which transcends the individual sense of responsibility and all the different theories. So I think it's summarized actually in then we can think that when we live, for instance, that we do our blessing life, we're living our blessing. I think the world can only, I think that's why actually it can seem like it's just a very individual thing. Yes, it's a personal thing. But if we put effort and understanding why blessing is important, it's not just important for me and my partner, but it's actually important, of course, for my children, for my heritage, my environment, but also important for the world. The blessing is a concept how to bring the world together. And so in this way, I think if we apply this, we can see the new dawn, we can see a new hope and welcome it in our hearts. So let's imagine ourselves to really be part of this world. Each one of us feel very responsible and key actor of creating a new world of peace and seeing the obstacles as a way for us to develop ourselves, improve ourselves, and making the world a better place. So let's, I will conclude with a prayer. So dear beloved Heavenly Parent, we thanking our true parents who really are coming here to manifest this historical dream of a new world. But Father, we know that we are also an essential part, each one of us are an essential part of this dream to realize it. And we want to pray that we can fulfill this responsibility. We know it's not easy. And you understand that also, Father. You understand it better more than anybody else. You're seeing human struggles, but you're with us. So we need to seek your guidance and seek your help. And through that, we can do the walk. We can understand our own history, our own self. We can understand our problems, but also through this, we can overcome it and find a path forward, Father. And then that's the way we can only give our people around us help also to go the same path. And we can give you joy and happiness as well. Please guide and bless each one who goes this path. And let us be filled with confidence and hope to imagine this new peaceful world order to come about. Pray and report this in my name, Lawrence Julian, blessed and the family. Adieu.